So when we talk about creating new learning environments for students, what we're talking about is creating an environment where students can be more actively engaged in the curriculum. And so the work that we're doing here relates to enlarging classroom size and so on, so that students can learn using more of a constructivist model where they're engaged in problem solving and defining the direction for learning. They will get at the topic being covered by their involvement in the curriculum. And some of that comes out of brain development research and an analysis of how people learn in ways that maybe we hadn't considered or understood as completely before. And so we've been creating both formal learning environments, classrooms, we're calling them learning studios, that are flexible. You can move furniture around, there's flexible technology, so the room can be recreated every time there's a new class and a new activity, and things like soundproofing and so on become critical as students are more actively involved during the class. We also have been developing informal learning environments, so starting with our library, trying to create environments for students to work outside of the classroom, because so much of their work happens there. They're doing a certain amount in the classroom, but then they take that away and work in groups and so on. And so we've actually looked at other places on campus where students can gather and learn, and so we have learning common spaces, and then other informal learning environments, even the hallways become a place where students can gather and learn. And we're finding that that is working for the students, and this summer we're going to be renovating learning spaces to match some of these new models and directions, and hopefully then we can provide a more active environment for students. Learning environment, but if we don't have a curriculum that works with that learning environment, then we've created a space that really can become a traditional learning environment. And sometimes it needs to be a traditional learning environment, and it can be a more collaborative learning environment as well. So in the Centre for Teaching and Learning, part of our role, in addition to the work that we do on learning space design, is learning design. And so working with instructors and programs to look at their curriculum and to determine with those individuals what are the right ways of delivering on learning outcomes within the program and in the courses. And in doing that, what we will be doing is looking at assessment methods and what are the appropriate assessment methods to meet those learning outcomes. So the assessment might be a group project, it might be a video, but it also might be a paper that an individual works on. And so the style that or the setting that the instructor creates in the classroom helps to inform or to match the assessment that will be taking place, so that students have a real authentic experience. And it's not the same experience in every course. It's not the same experience within a course. It's not the same experience in a program. So as an example, in a particular course, the instructor will move between different teaching models in order to engage the students around a type of learning that can then be assessed in a way that prepares the students for the workplace or for critical thinking and that kind of thing. Okay, through our work with various faculty, we're learning that there are many approaches, and that's totally appropriate, that the instructors know their students, they are engaging with their students, and they will go back and check with their students to find out if they're learning in the ways that they need to. When we developed, as an example, when we created the Donald School of Business, part of that model was to be quite active and collaborative, so instructors would be incorporating where appropriate projects that would engage students to work in groups and so on. And those changes are beginning to happen. It's an evolutionary process which some instructors will move forward with more quickly than other instructors, and that's where the value is in working with a program group, because as a group there can be discussion about what is working in that program, what's working for their students, and what they could do differently to engage the students, and it gets at that that group or departmental culture and allowing them to determine what their futures look like. Yeah. We at our college have quite a diverse body of students. We have students who are 18 to 24. We have students who are in their 30s. We have students who are in their 70s. And so when we're working with students, they're coming from various perspectives. And when they encounter technologies, many of our students are very comfortable with technology. In fact, they wouldn't even call it technology. They would just see it as the phone in their pocket, the tool that they can use to do any number of things. But for other students, the technologies that they use are considered to be technologies, and it's often a bit of a learning curve for those students. One of the advantages of working in groups is that students will teach one another around some of those things. But what we do find is that students know when a tool is the right tool for them to use in their learning. And so students are going to use their smartphones in class to look up definitions, to question the instructor on a concept that maybe they are checking during the class. So different students will have a different aptitude for that. But all students are using we are using a web-enhanced environment to add value to the courses so that students are able to access some of the curriculum outside or after class. And we use a tool called Blackboard for that. We use it for grading, for quizzing, for sharing lecture notes, for discussions, and any number of things. And what we're hearing from students in all categories, that they are appreciating those kind of tools. For some students, it means that if they know that the instructor's PowerPoint is going to be in Blackboard after class, they can focus more completely in the class. They're not focused on taking notes, and they know that they can come back at it later. For those instructors who do lecture capture, a student knows that if they are having a experience where a concept is very difficult, they can go back and review it over and over and over again. And so they're finding value in those additional resources that we can provide to them when they're working in an informal learning environment outside of the class. Many assignments are beginning to incorporate video and other types of technologies, and so students are learning. We have resources here to support them as they're learning some of those technologies as well. Okay, so many of our students are in that 18 to 24 age group, and it's interesting because as brain development studies are moving forward, there's beginning to be an understanding that the brain development in that age group is still underway, and so they are experiencing change in their brain as they move forward. And so that's why you see in that age an exploration of who they want to be, where they want to go with their careers, and so on. And so it's kind of an interesting time of life. They also are the group that has used technology right from birth, and that's why for them, they don't even really think about it as technology. It's just part of who they are. They have pretty complex lives. When I was a student in university, I didn't have as complex of a life as many of these students do. And they actually, they work very hard to, both on their studies, but also many of them are working sometimes a full-time job at the same time that they are a student. So they demand relevance, and so that's where it's so important for us to create a learning experience for them that is relevant to them, so that they will be fully engaged as they're learning, and that they will be engaged as they work on their projects outside of class. It gives them the motivation to complete the work in amongst all these other complexities in their lives. It adds to the excitement for them, and so it's a quite different experience for them. I know some universities in the United States have done studies on the day in a life of a student, and it's interesting to find that they pack a lot of their life in their backpack, because they leave the house in the morning and they're not home till 11 or 12 at night, and they have their meals with them, they have their change of clothes for work, they have all of their laptop and all of the tools that they need for the day, and they are on the run. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out as they become or when they move into their careers, and how that will impact them in their careers, because I suspect they will maintain quite a busy life. All right, so when we think about the students that we're teaching, one of the important things that we need to keep in mind is that they will be moving forward into a career and into the workplace. And so while we want to prepare them with the knowledge that they need in a content area, we also need to prepare them to work in what are pretty typically team environments. So some of the things we need to incorporate into our learning activities include things like critical thinking, teamwork, assessment of information, self-confidence, but also self-awareness around who they are within this broader a world that they're entering into. And so we should never forget, as we're teaching, that we are preparing students for a lifetime of learning, essentially. And so we want to instill in them a passion for that. And part of the way to do that is through that engagement. And so they may not be experts in a particular topic when they come into class, but we can create an environment where they can contribute to the creation of knowledge. So depending on whatever the topic is, they can be doing a lot of the research and can be coming with a level of expertise that is then complementary with the expertise that the other students gather, and along with the instructor who has a degree in a particular area or other expertise in a particular subject area, they can begin to create knowledge together, bringing together their various skill sets or knowledge sets. And that, I think, is what motivates students. It gets them excited to know that they are not just the recipients of knowledge or expertise, but that they have a role to play in creating it. And I know some of the programs on campus have moved in that direction. So there is an expert in the room, but part of the job of the expert is to coach the students to learn, and they're not necessarily going to be experts at the end of the class, but they will have contributed to the creation of a body of knowledge for that group within the class. And that's why active and collaborative learning opportunities are so important. A lot of research today talks about the difference between surface learning and deep learning, and I'm not as familiar with that literature as I would like to be, but from what I understand about it is that students can be surface learners, and sometimes in being surface learners they just want the information handed to them, and then they want to know what it's going to take to pass the test. To become a deep learner, there's an additional level of motivation that needs to happen. And so that's where an engagement with the curriculum and a determination of how to engage the students more deeply with the curriculum will move them into that place. And they don't always want to be in that place because they're used to, what do I need to do to pass? What do I need to do to complete this assignment, and so on. But I think when they become more deeply involved in the knowledge and creation of knowledge, that's a way that they will begin to be deeper learners. And they may balk at it at first because it's not what they're familiar with, but they will have a much richer experience because we have, as instructors, have set the stage for that deeper learning experience. And it can be different for different students, and so instructors need to be aware of who they have in their classes so that they can create the environment through the course of the term that will meet the needs of those various people, while recognizing that not every activity that they participate in may be the one they would have chosen to do, but that they are going to be motivated at some point throughout the course. Okay. As a librarian, I'm seeing a shift from students accessing print resources. And even different companies aren't even producing their resources in print. They're using other media, and they're using the web for disseminating information and so on, for example. As well, we have really a visual group of learners. They've grown up with video games, and they have been watching video and TV, learning a lot through those things. And when we talk about brain development, that also has changed the way their brains have developed. I think what's key is wherever the information comes from, whether it's in print, whether it's print but available on the web or as in an e-format, whether it's video, anything audio, even music, those kind of things, that students understand that there's a need to evaluate that information in whatever format they have it come to them. And so in the mid-1990s, when we would talk to students about information on the web, we would talk to them a lot about being able to assess whether that information was valid information or not, and then analyze and compare information. Nowadays, that a lot of the information on the web actually is not so much opinion as research and so on, documentary, some of those kind of things. But students still need the skills in how to evaluate that information in whatever format it has. And so I know our librarians work with programs around that evaluative skill set that those students need to have. And many of them are fairly savvy because of social media. They're aware that things aren't always what they seem. So in 1995, when the web came, we weren't quite so savvy as many of our young learners are, but they still only know what they know. They need to be guided in how to evaluate the appropriate information for the context that they're working in, whether that's video or print. We've been working on physical learning environments and creating new physical learning environments, but we also are working on creating virtual environments for students to learn in. And so some of those will be online. When we talk about formal and informal learning, so those might be courses online, but it might be tools available to students online so that they can learn wherever they're at outside of the class. But we're also talking about blended learning opportunities so that there's a virtual experience and a physical face-to-face experience, because we'd never want to lose that face-to-face experience, whether it's a virtual face-to-face experience or an in-person face-to-face experience. Students, because of their schedules and because we have students of all ages, it's really important to provide flexibility in the opportunities that are available for learning. And so we actually are looking at how and where do we incorporate more virtual opportunities. We already have incorporated Blackboard as a web-enhanced tool so students can access resources outside of the class. Some instructors do have blended classes where they meet face-to-face, maybe only twice a week, and then students meet in groups another time a week. So looking at different options, and just like teaching and learning in all other ways, one option or one size doesn't fit all, and so we really need to explore in the development of the curriculum what are the best options for virtual access and then physical access. And we also need to ask our students, because they're changing all the time. We need to know, what does it mean to be a 50-year-old student, and what's the best way of delivering a course for that particular student? What does it mean to be 20 and having a full-time job or a part-time job and creating those learning environments? So we want to do the best that we can to understand our students and then understand how we can deliver what they need through the curriculum and through the delivery models.